So today I thought I would do another video to go along with a blog post because I haven't done it for a while. But I haven't really had anything I really wanted to talk about, but I figured today I actually do. So I thought I'd share. Okay, so I was thinking about romance and horror. These are the two genres that typically get placed into the redheaded stepchild category of like the different genres that are out there. And I know a lot of people are like, why in the world? Why would anyone want to read a romance? Why would anyone want to read a horror? So today I thought I would explain it. But first, I want to kind of go towards like the other genres and kind of to me what these genres represent and the appeal in these genres. And the first thing that came to my mind was literary fiction for whatever reason. That I guess because going to high school, going to college, and having to dissect like books and write papers on like the themes, the setting, the symbolism, and all these different things that went into like the books, the classics, the classic literature that I had to read. That was like the first thing. And that to me is more of a literary or intellectual exercise because you're processing different things about the book rather than, I think, enjoying the book itself. But then there are other books out there that are also intellectual, but they aren't things that we would really like to sit there and dissect these different things for. And one is science fiction. And to me, science fiction is what you're looking at is technology, like where it's going, the possibilities of the future, and also maybe like an alien species, like what would happen if there was contact with aliens, or, how to be different, who would succeed. Most of the time we end up like not being successful in dealing with aliens in like the books and stuff like that, the movies. So they usually tend to be more advanced than us. So, but I think that's more of an intellectual, and it's kind of like in a what if and exploring different possibilities. And then I was thinking like another genre is fantasy, and to me that's more of like magic adventure, kind of lighthearted, although I guess there could be some dark ones. I personally do not really read a lot of fantasy, it's just not my thing. I think I lean more towards science fiction before I'd go towards fantasy, but I don't really read a lot of science fiction either. And another, I thought there was another genre mystery. Mystery was the other genre. I wrote this blog post first to get my thoughts organized, but I'm kind of like ad-libbing as I'm going along now. But for me, mystery is definitely intellectual. You have a puzzle and you're trying to like put it all together to figure out like who committed the crime or the murder, whatever happens, so that's probably the appeal of that. And I would say like of all these mysteries, my least favorite. I've just never been a really big fan, even though my mom and my dad, they were huge fans of that. But for me, I've always leaned towards romance and horror, and I have enjoyed both. And I grew up on horror because my mom was a big horror person, but I discovered romance later on. I was like more along 12 years old when I discovered romance. And today I thought, because a lot of people most people, like, okay, not most people, but I would say enough people, like I have heard enough people say that romance and horror are just trash. And it's almost like these are not respectable genres in the book community. And I remember when I started writing romance, almost like had to hide my head in shame around my friends and family because they were all just like, "Oh my God, you went over to the dark side." To them this was not appropriate romance. Nope. It's just smut, it's trash, it's porn, and that's what a lot of people seem to think. It's just, it's just a sex book and that's it. And for some, they were more accepting of horror. I mean, at least people, that I grew up with, like in my family, because my mom was into horror. So that was more respectable, but a lot of people do not like horror because they're like, well, it leads to violence and it leads to crimes and it's just gore and it's just gross, and we're just basically, so it's basically like fear porn, right? I mean, it's kind of like romance, but without the sex. It's just kind of like trashy. So anyway, but I'm going to try to explain that that's not really like for the appeal for readers, and I am a big reader in romance and horror, and why for us, we really don't see the genres that way. So I was thinking that these, okay, a real quick note, thriller, I think, is a really close cousin to horror. So when I talk horror, I'm really lumping thriller into this. To me, thriller is like a PG-13 rating of horror. Horror just takes it up a higher notch. Okay, so now I can go back to my topic. But if you want to read the post, it's my thoughts are way better, like organized in writing form than it is in speaking. Because my first gift is writing. My gift for speaking is not really there. But I'm doing this in case people like they have trouble reading things. I know I have trouble reading things. I need more audio these days. So I'm just doing it in case someone out there is like me out there and would benefit from this. So anyway, this is basically the appeal of romance and horror. It's the emotion. We are looking for an emotional experience. In my opinion, people that are higher in empathy probably lean more towards these genres because the emotional pull of whatever it is the character is going through, that is what we're really looking for. We're looking for the emotion. We're not looking for an intellectual exercise. We're not looking for a what if. This could happen, that could happen. We're not looking for whimsical. We're not looking for something light. I think we're looking for something with more substance in it. Because when you're reading a romance, you're looking for the thrill of falling in love. It's that excitement. I mean, if you've ever fallen in love before, you know that there's that, it's just the most powerful. It's really, you think about the person all the time. You're not obsessed. Okay, I'm not going to take it to that extreme. Because in a healthy romance, you're not going to be obsessed with a person. But they'll be on your mind. You'll be so excited you think about them. You hear from them. You just get the butterflies in your stomach. And it's just such a wonderful feeling to be wrapped up in that falling in love feeling. Now, I've been married for 25 years now. And I'll tell you, no marriage is perfect. But that's because people are not perfect. So yes, I understand there is no perfect person out there. I'm not perfect, by all means. But I'm still happy in the marriage. I'm happy being with my husband. But it's fun to read a book. It's fun to write a book where you have two people coming together and just finding each other and that having that falling in love experience again. It's just, to me, one of the best feelings in the world. It's light. It just fills you with passion and excitement. So, but when people are thinking, romance, they're thinking like, oh, you're just reading it for the sex. No, we're not. We're reading it for the character's experience in falling in love. And any sex scene that is in a book where the sex doesn't have some kind of point in developing a character as the person as the character, they have to develop somehow on their level. They have to grow as the character, and they have to grow within the relationship, and it has to somehow bring them closer to the person they're with. If the sex scene does not do that in a romance, the sex scene should not be there. It's not necessary. There has to be a point. And it's just like with any other scene that you have in a book. If it doesn't somehow advance the plot, then it should be thrown out. So, contrary to what people are thinking, a sex scene is not just about getting aroused. It is really about finding how the characters are growing closer together and how they're falling more in love. Again, it's about that motion, the love. Falling in love, that's the key to anything that's put in that book. Especially the sex scene should be really lean towards that. And that's why I do not view this as porn and smut, because we are focused on the emotional development of the characters. Now, some people may think that's just ridiculous, but it's the truth. That's how I see it. Okay, and now let's go to horror, because horror is my second favorite of all the genres. In fact, the first genre I love to read more than anything else. I love to read horror. I like to read romance, but I love to read horror the most. but I'm more of a romance writer, so I already get like enough romance. So for me, in my fun time, when I'm relaxing, I'll go more towards horror. And if I can blend horror and romance, that's really well. I mean, that's even better, but I'm having some trouble finding really good books that adequately combine horror and romance together. So, but anyway, let's just go with straight horror. Now, people think, why would you want to sit there and just read something where people are being like hunted around, and they're like just this either a person or an entity or something is like hunting you down, and in real life, would you really like enjoy being hunted and pursued and killed? Is that what you want? No, of course not. We do not want that in real life. We The thrill of it, the thrill of horror, is that you're safe. You're in a safe environment, and yet you're allowed to explore the emotion of being scared, of feeling dread, of being in terror. It's more of like, okay, I'm safe. I'm in my house. Nothing bad's going to happen to me. My door's locked, you know, but still I get to live out these emotions. And that's the emotion, it's the emotional pull. And again, I would say if there is a graphically violent scene in a horror book that somehow does not enhance the plot development, it says something about maybe the villain, or it says something about the main character the villain's going after. If there's not some development going on in those characters as a result of this going on, then that violence doesn't need to be there. And sometimes some of the most frightening things in a horror book is not the graphic stuff, but it's more of the psychological bent. It's kind of like the idea, and I'm just going to give something as an example that just came to mind that I did not put in the post. But I heard about this book, and I don't remember the title of this book, and I don't remember the author, but someone was saying they were reading this book where all these weird things were happening. And it turns out that there was like some guy living within the walls of this house. Like the whole time, like that was the punchline. Well, when you go back and you think about that, and then you think about the events in the book, that would be pretty terrifying. Even though like the main character was not harmed, but the idea that the character could have been harmed at any time, that institutes a certain aspect of horror, like the fear, the dread, because that's, something that could very possibly happen, even though, it didn't, but still, that's the appeal. We're looking for, it's the emotion. That's what it all comes down to. We just want that emotional thing. We want that emotional pull. We want high emotional stakes with the characters. And I guess like the final thing I'll say about it is I think when you're reading science fiction, fantasy, mystery, and stuff like this, I think you're more in the character's head. And with romance and horror, and just like an adjacent with the thriller, I think you're in the character's heart. And that's really the difference. We don't want to read something for the head. We want to read something for the heart. Okay. And that's the best way I can explain it. And if anyone has a better explanation, I'm fine with hearing it.